morning, good morning. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to 1 Million Cups. Thank you for coming out on this rainy day. 1 Million Cups in the E-Factory had a bet on what the turnout would be. We had an over-under, I think the number was 71. And we lost. And just to let you know, if you lose a bet to the E-Factory, they send you an invoice. It's true. So we're going to kick it off today. How many here are here for the first time? Raise your hands. Thanks for braving the rain to be here. How many here would consider themselves an entrepreneur? Yes, that's what we like to see. For those of you who it is your first time, we're going to have 2 presentations today, both 6 to 8 minutes apiece, followed by 20 minutes of question and answer. During the Q&A session, if you have a question, you can just raise your hand, and I'll bring you the microphone. If you wouldn't mind standing and using the microphone, we're going to have you on the recording back there, and you can find those recordings later on our YouTube channel at 1 Million Cups Springfield. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce our first presenter, who came all the way from Columbia, Missouri. I imagine you had to get up early this morning, so we appreciate you making the trek out here, especially with all of your supplies. So, Mike with Stow, take it away.
Christian, and I'll show you my initial prototype for the swing. Thank you. Good morning, I'm Mike McCuistion, and my company is Stow. Out of my own need for more storage space in my workshop, I created this prototype 13 years ago. So it's going to kind of articulate, I'm going to talk and reference the video. So I just went to the store and bought a bunch of 1x8s and some wheels and hinges, no plans or anything, and just kind of made this. Then about a year or so later, my wife and I adopted 3 kids from foster care, and we had to build out the basement for more living space. So my prototype sat in storage for about 10 years. So then, about fall of 13, I started watching this TV show called Shark Tank. Have I heard of that? All right. And so I got to thinking, well, what do I have? Because I've got all kinds of inventions and stuff. What do I have that I could go on the show with? So I decided this would be the one. And so I had been saving my allowance for about 2 years to buy a motorcycle. I had about $2,000 saved up. And I decided to scrap the motorcycle and become an entrepreneur. Actually, I already was one. But anyway, so I had, and by trade or by profession, I'm a financial advisor, been practicing since '87. So I had meetings with clients in both Kansas City and St. Louis, and on those trips I interviewed patent attorneys, selected one in Ottawa, Kansas. Don't know if you all know where that is, but it's a little town kind of in the middle of nowhere. Found a great patent attorney. I'm going to divert for just a second. So now we're at the production prototype. So this was the prototype that I made to spec out for the patent attorney, my first design, which was an enhancement of the original. And so I found this patent attorney. He was an engineer who got a law degree and started practicing patent law about 19 years ago. Has over 600 patents that he's written, and we just really hit it off. So in early July, I finished this prototype and got all the specs to him for writing the patent and doing all the mechanical drawings and everything. The second prototype, and this is what I call the flat 6-box prototype. It's got 6 shelf panels. And then I came up with a second configuration, a corner configuration, which we'll see on the video in just a minute. So we did what's called a continuation in part to the patent for this. Then also, part of what you're going to see through this whole process and what makes this system work is a specifically designed hinge, and there'll be a video of it here, but this is it. I've got samples up here. Because floors aren't flat, and the shelf units roll on fixed casters. And since the floor is not flat, the box has to be able to float or roll and follow the contour. So I had to design this hinge, which you also have a patent pending on, that would allow the articulation to happen this way as the hinge was turning this way. Okay? So you're also going to see an animated video here in just a minute. But if we took this apart, so it's pegboard on the back, shelves on the front. The shelves can be anywhere from 8 to 24 inches deep in the design. But in the 8 or 12-inch configuration, it's 11 feet wide. But if you unpacked it and dismantled it and put it up on the wall, it'd be 43 feet. So I condensed 43 feet down to 11 feet. Here it is right here. So, in a second, you're going to see the corner configuration in my garage. It's got stuff on it and everything. So I'm building all these things in my workshop in my basement. And so my wife says, well, I want one of these for the pantry. So the next one after this is the pantry configuration. And so you'll see that here in just a minute. At the end of this, there'll be a close-up of the hinge. So when you see the big picture of the hinge up there, just focus on two gaps that are next to each other. And as I swing one of the shelf units, you'll see the thicknesses of the hinge gaps change. And in all these, on the original prototype, I didn't have the core storage shelves built in place. When I was assembling the first unit, I was just building it together and just kind of chalking that up to dead space. And I go, well, look at there, there's a flat surface. I just put a board on there, I got more shelves. So it worked out really well. Here, I made a little thing to hold my fishing rods and reels. So, kind of talks through that. The other interesting thing, I had conventional shelves up here before, and they were full. And now you see all these gap areas. So everything that was in that space before is there with additional capacity with all the blank shelves that you see. Okay, now, so watch like these two are the top two in pair. As the thing swings, you'll see what I'm talking about. So anyway, I looked all over the place. I did it when I was looking into patenting this. We did a global patent search. There's nothing like that. It was interesting because what we came up with on the global patent search for a floating hinge, you would not believe the complexity of what was designed by an engineer, something that was under that context, and it still didn't have the same functionality. So here's the pantry unit, and you'll kind of see how that works. It's a 9-foot ceiling in the pantry, so there's fixed storage up above as well. And I think it was late February, there was a Columbia Chamber of Commerce business conference showcase, which I had a booth at and had this unit there as a showpiece. And so it was really interesting because the ladies came by and said, oh man, in my closet for shoes and handbags and all that kind of stuff, that's what I need. So, and as I presented this to people and shared my idea, I've had and really appreciated all kinds of feedback for this would be great for this, or this would be great for that, or man, if you did this and scaled it up or scaled it down, you know, this could do it. So anyway, Stow is the name of my company, and that's my presentation. Now I'm open to questions.
Okay, if you have a question, just raise your hand. We'll bring the microphone.
My question in regards to your patent, what makes this unobvious or novel to other storage units?
Yeah, a couple of aspects. It's the combination, well, the hinge has its own patent application pending, and then the combination of what I call hanging storage, pegboard, it could be other designs of that could be used, and then also shelving along with the mounting to a hinge, to a post or pivot point, and being on casters. Those are the main key points.
Great.
So your product then is basically then would be your rollers and your hinge that creates fluidity up and down in vertical, right? Man, has anybody ever wrestled cattle before, you know, and you have to get into the field, you know, and those gates are never easy to open, you know. You know, I think you know, a gate that goes up and down and easy to open would certainly be, you know, of interest to, well, maybe not cattle wrestling.
So yeah, and the hinge design can be used, or I think there are applications out there for both a vertical and a horizontal shifting proposition. So my intentions are not to go into production, but to license all this stuff out. So I want to license the hinges. They can be designed in different size and scale. I'm working with a local cabinetry shop. This is the mock-up of, so all the prototypes I made were out of OSB, because if you make a mistake, it's cheap. So now I've got a cabinet shop, and this is what a finished unit might look like, just as a material standpoint, and show some of the construction aspects. I also have as a prop over here the 550-pound rated caster, which is used, and there's 2 of these. So each box has a basically 1,000-pound capacity, 6,000 pounds for the 6-box unit. Other questions?
So when do you plan on production and sales?
I think I'm about 2 to 3 months out.
What price point are you going to be selling? Are you planning on selling cabinetry as well, or just the?
Oh no, I'm planning on selling units. I've got the 6-box, the first unit priced estimated about $3,000 to $3,500. The corner unit about $2,000 to $2,500, and the pantry about $1,500 to $2,000.
Is this a freestanding unit, or what is the capacity or requirements to attach it to?
Yeah, it is freestanding. It might be advisable to mount it, but you bring up another point that I wanted to present. So my other idea, or one of the applications for this, would be like for warehouse or storage or things like this. So in a room like this, if you could imagine flat unit, corner, flat, corner, flat, corner, flat, corner, flat, and then internally the units back to back like this and facing each other. Imagine the amount of storage and cataloging and organizational capacity that you would have in a small room like this.
I like the concept of your hinges. And tell me, why didn't you go with, or maybe you struggled through, the shock absorbing casters itself instead of the hinges?
Well, I didn't think of that. But I don't know that I would get the travel out of that I would get with the hinge. It's really interesting how little tension or tensile forces there are on that pin because it's balanced on the wheels. But I didn't think of that. But yeah, machining the hinge was a real challenge, and I banged my head against the wall because I cut that. I made those myself. Now I've got a machine shop that's going to make them, but I made them myself with a 14-inch chop saw, or chop, like a grinding wheel. And I had a real hard time being able to hold it in the vise, and then also to have enough support for the downforce that you had to push to get that ground out.
In terms of deliverability for this, is
Yes.
this something that's going to be sold as a kit? Is it do-it-yourself, or do you have installers that you work with? How's that?
So what I'm planning to do locally is have them made and fully assembled. Installation looks like the 6 boxes or 4 boxes, and the filler and shelving system are all modulated. So you put the pieces in, drop the hinges in the pins, and it's installed. We have designed this with knockdown construction. So, and you're welcome to come up afterwards and take a look. So we are thinking that it could be boxed up and packaged up and sent out like the other, knockdown. IKEA would be great for me to license with. Yes.
Have you looked at your competition and what the market is? Because I specifically have seen a competitor in the marketplace that's been in there, I guess, for a long time, and they have an accordion system, and the state of Missouri uses it for documents, and it basically, the system I saw has 30 shelves in one area, and they can collapse that into very small, they all collapse down, and you can just pull them apart wherever you want to go.
I really haven't evaluated my competition. The ones that I've seen, I don't know if it's exactly what you're talking about, but you have this bank, of things, and you crank. But to get the one at the end, you've got to move this one down, and then this one down, and then this one down, and then this one down. So I feel, and I'm not familiar with the accordion configuration or design or competition that you're bringing up, but this is, I don't know. The feedback that I've gotten from a lot of people is, I need something, I want one. I need one of these, or I know somebody, or you can do it for this or that or that. So I haven't tried the marketability yet.
Great idea, by the way.
Thank you.
How long has your patent been pending? Just curious.
Yeah, patent was submitted in late January this year.
Did you do a provisional, utility, or design?
Utility.
Okay. And how do you plan on seeking licensing deals?
I've got an appointment today with a Business Incubator Center in Columbia on how to identify potential entities to license out to, and trying to do shows. I'm also going to have on my website, it's going to be set up for the individual or residential consumer, the business or institutional consumer, and the licensee. That's another thing. So I'm working with, I don't have a website up yet. Hoping to have that up in a month or two. But I'm working with a marketing and PR firm in Columbia, and they're writing the copy for my website. I also have plans to go to an open call Shark Tank audition, so they're writing my 60-second pitch for that. And then I have a web designer already identified and working with. In fact, he's the one that shot all the video and everything.
You mentioned some pricing. How did you come up with that pricing, and have you tested consumer price sensitivity?
Yeah, I came up with the pricing because I've been told somewhere in the range of 3 to 4 times cost is a good retail. I've really been kind of estimating my cost, but I think I'm pretty close to that. So that's how I arrived at that. It's interesting when and I think this is going to be one of those things that initially, my price is kind of high, maybe for the average person. But what I'm hoping is by licensing it out and the scalability and efficiencies of cost that come through that, the price will come down. But that's where I am right now.
You actually mentioned licensing with IKEA.
Yeah.
But I was actually thinking you wouldn't even necessarily have to license through IKEA. If you could base your system to work with their cabinets, because their cost points, their price points, you're never going to be able to achieve manufacturing in the U.S. I don't care who you use. You might not ever be able to do it, period. If you just made your casters, your hinges as a kit that could sell along with their cabinets,
Good idea. Yeah.
I think that's where the money is.
Okay.
Because then your biggest cost is going to be shipping massive cords of particle board around the country. And with just the hinges and the kits, that cuts down a lot.
Okay, I like the idea. Thank you.
Mike, did you explore other materials?
Well, I didn't, because wood is the only thing that I can work with, but the patent is written such that it could be plastic, fiberglass, metal, any kind of rigid material. That's how the initial application was written, not just wood.
Have you seen demand for any of those alternative materials?
Well, one of the applications or uses for this would be, that's been mentioned pretty regularly, is in a commercial kitchen. And I don't know from the standpoint of bacteria and all that kind of stuff if wood would even be allowed unless it was sealed in some fashion. So I would anticipate that metal or plastic or something like that would be the material for that. And I don't know.
So I'm with Mercy's Research and Development Group, and we do a lot of licensing. That's just kind of our bread and butter. And we find that licensing unproven products are becoming more and more difficult, and that you really need to be able to establish a market share and really proof of concept in the market before products become attractive to licensees. So this is less a question of just a comment.
Sure.
That as much as you can keep the product in-house and really focus on establishing market share, will really increase the value of the product and make the product more attractive to potential licensees.
Okay, good. Thank you.
I had a question regarding where you said you were wanting to possibly make this for a warehouse setup. I guess there's kind of several questions regarding that, and one of them is, would you be changing the material that you used? Also, would you be using it as a standalone system or something that worked and attached to existing pallet shelving? And also, have you put any thought into how that would work with robotic warehouse systems?
I haven't given the robotic warehouse systems, but one of the ideas that I have, I mean, to scale this thing way up, and it's got, big rollers like this and huge actuator motors, and it's got automotive transmissions on it. So I've kind of looked in that context, obviously not something I can make in my basement. But from that standpoint, I don't know. I'm thinking with the robotic system there would have to be some mechanism in place that would tell the system to swing out and to access the third shelf back. I don't know how that would work. I really thought more in a smaller scale warehouse, like a retail back room or things like that. I haven't really thought about a large warehouse application. I haven't got that far yet.
Okay, I kind of didn't expect that you necessarily had got that far into it. I just was probably, since I have a warehouse myself, I was kind of throwing questions out there more for you to know like what someone who has a warehouse would be wanting to know about the product.
Okay.
And I think that that if you ever had questions on that, I'd be more than happy to go more in depth about what somebody who had a warehouse would want to know.
Yeah, thank you so much.
No problem.
Just a couple minutes left here, guys. Any other questions? Mike, we finished every presentation in Springfield, as do most of the Million Cups, with the same question, and that is, how can we as a community help you?
Okay. I appreciate all the feedback that I've gotten. I'm open to ideas for locations, venues, applications for the system as it might be applicable. Any insights that you would have on licensing or things like that, as well as getting the product to market, would also be appreciated.
Mike, thanks for coming.
All right.
Thanks, Mike. And keep us updated on the Shark Tank thing. Good luck with that. Yeah.
If anybody's interested, I've got up here business cards and a little bowl and some things that you can fill out. So if you want to get on our keep us in the loop list, drop the business card in or fill the thing in. We'll put your email in the system and then send stuff out as kind of things as well.
It's something that I want to point out real quick. Mike's from Columbia, as was mentioned. 1 million cups, awesome network across the U.S. I think 70, in 70 cities. And what's really, I think, powerful is that once you're approved to present at one of the 1 million cups, you're now part of the Passport program. So you can go to any of these other locations and present your concept and get feedback. And again, I think that's extremely powerful. So that's what Mike's taken advantage of, and just kind of want to call that out. Okay, so how many of you guys were here for the first time around to see Betsy Miller? Okay, I've had multiple people tell me that we're in for a treat. I was not here for that, so I'm looking forward to it. But first we have a couple of announcements. I'm not going to read every single one, but there are really cool organizations that exist here in our backyard, guys. Some are kind of a little more industry specific, but just keep an eye up here. You got your groups here, your next meeting over here, and then as well as your key contacts. So most, if not all, of these key contacts are in the house today. So if you guys are interested in participating in any of these groups, in the next meetings, be sure to reach out to them after the next presentation. So without further ado, to stay on the theme of being organized, we have Betsy Miller here with a refill to be organized.
So, gosh, that was a build-up. It was going to be a real treat. I don't know what I did last time to impress you. Maybe some of my comedy ways. I don't know. I am Betsy Miller. I own To Be Organized. I've been doing this for about 17 years. So for those of you that don't know me and don't know about my company, I do a lot of clutter control. So primarily I go into residential, I'd say mostly residential. Commercial is probably about 5% of what I do. And help people get rid of their clutter. Everybody has too much stuff. I do a lot of low-cost therapy, working people through the process of letting go of their things, moving them onto donation status and sometimes dumpster status. So I started about 17 years ago, like I said. It was kind of before HGTV and hoarders and all that kind of stuff. So it was challenging back then to kind of explain what it was I did. It's gotten a lot easier with those powerful components at HGTV especially. I've worked on the show hoarders, and that was quite an experience. I learned a lot. I know. And I work with a lot of hoarders here in town. I actually am on the collaborative with the Springfield Fire Department, and we are addressing hoarding in our own community. So, yeah, I've learned some tricks along the way. If you get in my car, you'll notice there's always a little thing of mentholatum and Q-tips. Anybody know why? Exactly. It may look really scary, but the smell is even scarier. So, yeah. So, since I was here last time, I had a funny, not funny thing happen. Deb's heard this story. When you have a hoarder say, do you want to see what's in my freezer? You should probably say no. For a split second, I thought, oh Lord, it's going to be her dead husband. Somebody. It was her dead cat. And yeah, that was the first. Usually I'm not at a loss for words, but I told my best Mel Tillis, humming up, wait, hut. Yeah. She basically just laid the little kitty cat there to take a little nap. And a year later, he was still in there. So I had to recommend her to the Burrell Center, and we got some good therapy going, which is great. And she's doing much better. So we addressed the cat situation. So To Be Organized has lots of different things. Primarily, like I said, I go in and help people and help my clients with clutter control, but I'm doing a whole lot of other stuff. And so I have franchised To Be Organized. And I'll be excited to tell you guys that since we last spoke, I have sold my first one. Yes. So actually, it is in the Columbia, Jeff City area. So this is kind of a good thing that we met and we'll be talking. So, and I have a couple more pending. I've been contacted really from around the world, which is crazy to me. I mean, I guess that's the beauty of the internet. Obviously, I'm not licensed to really do any franchising in Australia yet, but that's certainly a goal. It would be fabulous to be able to do that. I've been contacted from all across the country. It's a great small business. The startup cost is $35,000. I took the advice from the panel last time and lowered the cost. And so what I've decided to do is the first 5 that sell, we negotiate a price that works for both of us. What you're buying is brand. You can see I've trademarked and registered my name, so no one can capitalize on the To Be Organized brand. I also, what you get is training. You come here to train with me on organizing processes. And, you know, if you've ever done a small business, you'll know that it's really in the details of where you kind of get caught up in spending your money. And so part of what you end up buying are all the things that you kind of don't think of when you first start out, like business cards, designing them, gift certificates, client assessments, the website. My gosh, I mean, if you want to do a professional website, you know, that's $10,000. So all these things are already done. So that's one thing that you really get a bang for your buck. The other thing about franchising, as you all know, is that, you know, you're not starting from scratch. And I think it's like a 90% success rate with franchises for that reason. You're not starting from scratch, you're not recreating the wheel, and you have a proven system in place. Obviously, I've been in business for 17 years, so I think by now I know pretty much what I'm doing. Not always. My husband would probably say, no you don't, what are you talking about? But yeah, it's a proven system, it's a small market, so if I can make a go of it in Springfield, Missouri, obviously Dallas and New York and Chicago are, I mean, the possibilities are endless there. So the other thing I'm working on is an HGTV show. So having worked with Hoarders and having worked on Extreme Home Makeover and working with some of the craziness that I see every day, I decided to pitch my own show to some producers. So at some point up on the screen, oh, here it is. So I want you guys to do a Twitter blast. What is it, a flash mob? I want to do a Twitter mob. So I want all of you to tweet at To Be Organized and tweet these 2 people here. And these are the production companies that I'm really, really anxious to work with. And so if you'll tweet out that To Be Organized needs its own HGTV show, that would be fabulous. That would be helpful.
Okay, bravo.
People do it, get on there and tweet.
Yeah, if you do decide to tweet, you'll see yourself come up on the right side of the screen there if you use the hashtag #1MCSGF. Everybody likes seeing their own name. So Betsy, thank you for coming back. And we were really energized the last time that you were here. Between then and now, tell us about some of the milestones that you reached that have got you to your first franchise.
Well, like I said, I took your advice. I mean, I think, you know, the price point that I had was based on all the money out of my personal savings account that I was trying to you know, recoup some of that. Those legal costs are crazy. And so I took your advice and, you know, kind of thought about it and thought, you know what, those first 5, I mean, I really do want people to have that feeling of every day I feel so rewarded when I get home from work. And that's really what it was about. And so I renegotiated that, and bing, bang, boom, here we are. I've already trained her. She's getting ready to start any day now in Jeff City, and so that was a huge milestone, huge.
Chris Allen.
Great presentation. Love what you're doing. You touched on it a little bit. Something that I think is probably the most interesting about this is that really more than helping people clean their house, you're helping them through an emotional and a psychological experience. And I was wondering if you were able to maybe get with one of those people and maybe write down their experience of the process and create a white paper for your business. I think that might be one way that you can position yourself. Do you have any of those already?
Yes.
Or and if you do, what was that experience like, kind of getting that down on paper with the person?
That's a great idea. You know, over the years, I joke all the time, and I say I'm an underpaid therapist. You know, good luck getting your closet cleaned out and having a therapy session for $40 an hour. Yeah, I need to do that. One of my biggest success stories, and she doesn't mind that I talk about this, is my friend Brandy Hickman. She called me probably about 5 years ago. She was in a pretty dark place. There was some illness going on with her family. She had been a professional and then started staying home. You could see the darkness when you went into her home because it was a hot mess. And we started working, just chipping away at the clutter. And through the clutter, we talked through everything else. And we started talking about overextending your kids and overextending your schedule and all those kinds of things. 5 years later, she and I are partners at a new venture called To Be Well, which is a yoga center and a wellness center. And so she has come full circle in terms of the clutter represents lots of different things in your life. Yeah. Yeah.
I have a question about your trademark and licensing.
Yes.
Did you use a local lawyer? Did you do it yourself? And what was the approximate cost?
I used a lawyer. I felt like my grandfather was an entrepreneur, and I just felt like, you know, you get what you pay for. No disrespect to people that do it themselves, but that's certainly not my strong suit. I used Hush Blackwell, which is a local law firm. They actually sent me to the Kansas City office, and up there they have 2 attorneys that really just specialize in registering, trademarking, and in franchising. My costs at this point, with all my legal fees, I'm in over about 75 grand at this point.
Before the franchise, how much were you in? Before the franchise costs, you know?
You mean just the trademarking and the registering?
Yes.
I think it was about 20,000. I mean, that's a general term, but it was right around there.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So we've had a number of presenters come to 1 Million Cups and talk about their plans for franchising and that being a pathway for scalability. But I think a lot of people don't understand what goes into that process. And I know that I'm sure this is a really loaded question because it's not something that I understand either. But could you kind of walk me through that process of what went into franchising your organization and what kind of steps that you took to reach that point?
Well, I think the hardest part for me, and probably anyone that's ever gone through that process, is that you have to take basically everything that you do in your head every day that's a no-brainer, and you have to put it down on paper. And you have to create a manual, because you have to pretend that he doesn't know anything about running a business, he doesn't know anything about organizing, all that kind of stuff. So that took 2 years to sit down and create a day-to-day, how do you go meet with a client? How do you follow through on the sale? How do you get the products that they need? How do you bill? How do you deal with a order? All those kinds of things. That process was honestly painful for me. I'm not a patient person. I'd love to see results quickly. I think most of us do. So that was a test of my patience and my fortitude for sure. So that was the first thing I had to sit down and do, is really just kind of map it. It's almost like journaling your day, and then putting it in a document that you can hand over to somebody and say, this is how you do it. So that's how I started doing that. Is that helpful?
I have two kind of separate questions. Number one, you talked about, making a referral to Burl for one of your hoarding patients. And on that note, what you are doing does involve a lot of psychological thinking. Have you done some training in that area, or are you collaborating or working with psychologists to get some of your information?
Yes, I was a psychology major in college, but that doesn't mean I do not have my degree. So I won't say it, but I have tapped into a lot of that education from many years ago. But at To Be Well, we have several counselors, and one in particular that does a lot of cognitive behavioral therapy, which is usually what I refer my clients to, which basically talks about, there's lots of different kinds of therapies, as you know, but cognitive behavioral therapy really addresses the hoarding behavior. We don't really get into talking about your childhood and your spouse and that kind of stuff. It's really focusing on the behavior.
And then the second question is more related to the business. So I wasn't able to see your first presentation, and I'm just more curious about the structure of your business, because I'm thinking in terms of your time. You're working on building a TV show, and you have this business, and you're training franchising. Do you have employees? Is there a mechanism within your franchise for hiring employees?
Definitely.
And what you need to look for that?
Yes, I have a couple of girls that work for me here locally that I send out on different jobs so that I can focus on the bigger picture. But as any entrepreneur knows, it's usually all me all the time in some aspect, because this is my baby. I have a hard time kind of delegating some of that stuff on. But I certainly have some people, yes, that work for me and are extremely helpful.
Besides clutter and stuff, do you have any coaches that work with individuals on being organized in their life, like scheduling and those kind of things?
Yes, we do. We do all kinds of different things. I've got a guy that will help you with your electronic organizing. A lot of people just are inundated with emails and texts and the Twitter and all that kind of stuff. And so I have one specific person that just will come in and help you do that. So yeah, we do lots of different kinds of things.
What's the demand?
It's getting bigger and bigger. It's getting bigger and bigger. Especially, what's really getting bigger in the computer stuff are pictures. Because years ago, those of you that know, we developed photos. They came on a little piece of paper, and you developed them, and you had to pay for them. But now, everybody's pictures are electronic, and people don't know how to manage them and what to do with them and how to, get them organized in their computers. So that's a huge thing that we do.
I had a question for you. With your background, with having been on hoarders and you branding yourself so much about trying to help people that have like a serious problem with hoarding and having a substantial amount of junk basically in their house and their life, does that stop you from getting just normal average people who want to organize their house, that just want to, hey, I need to go through my closet or need to go through my garage? Do you feel like it stopped people coming to you and having a lot of growth in that area because they're like, oh, well, she just deals with hoarders?
No, I don't just deal with hoarders, and most everybody knows that. I mean, the majority of my clients are not hoarders, to be quite honest.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So a lot of my clients are, like you said, they just need that kind of accountability. I tell people a lot of time it's like hiring a trainer. Yeah, you can do it yourself, but you don't.
Right.
I mean, I speak from experience. I had a treadmill and a weight machine in my basement for 5 years, and I was Fatty McFatterson. I mean, it's true. But when I hired a trainer, and I had that money's a great motivator, and guess what? It works. So it's really about just. Sorry. How about Fatty McButterpants? Do you like that one? I'll be here all day. I tell you. Yeah, it's really just having that accountability, and I tell people all the time, everything's more fun with a friend. So if you were going to do your pantry, you would go in and you'd be like, forget it. But if I'm there and I'm making it fun, and you're paying me, and we have an appointment, you're going to do it.
Right. Well, I may need you to help me with my garage.
Not a problem.
I have a question, but I do want to say I found To Be Well on Facebook before I heard of To Be Organized, and I love To Be Well. I think it's awesome.
Oh, thank you.
And I'm in the mental wellness industry, and so just hearing about this is so inspiring because I think it is totally missed. And like my brother-in-law always says, like a good indication of your brain is if you walk into your room and there's stuff everywhere, like welcome to your brain. And I think that's so true.
True.
And I see it in my own life during busy weeks. But I was just wondering, you started this, you said 17 years ago?
Correct.
So that was before Twitter and before Facebook. How did you say, I'm going to come clean your house without insulting people, or how did you get going, getting the word out?
Well, you know, the great thing, again, going back to the franchising, you know, really what you're buying with the franchising is all the things I learned not to do. And back then it was a lot harder. You know, really to be organized, you have to find any business, you have to find your target market. And I learned the hard way what to do and what not to do. I am really lucky living in Springfield. I was born and raised here. I'm a 4th generation Springfieldian, so I definitely tapped into that. But I, you know, have a mouth of the South, and I'm happy to go around and talk about what I love to do. And, you know, I did a lot of it for free at first, just to get my name out there. And, you know, again, explaining it. People are like, what do you do? Do you build shelves? What we don't understand. And so it has evolved. And it's definitely more of a movement now, which has absolutely helped propel my business to a different level. Thank you.
Hi. I'm from Branson, Missouri. Tyler Watson. This is awesome. I love this. I had a question though. When you're meeting with people, how do you determine what it is that they need? Is it like per hour, or is it like, hey, you get this whole thing and you do this for a week or a month, or how does that work?
All of the above. So I always offer a free consultation, and in that consultation we do a tour of the space, and that's when we talk budget and needs and supplies and that kind of stuff. But in generally speaking, an all-day session will run you $250, $300. So it's not horrible.
Cool.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I was interested in your franchisees. Is part of their success plan to have ongoing counseling, workshops, or enrichment?
Definitely. Ongoing support with me, with my team at To Be Well, and the team that I've built under To Be Organized. You know, I have lots of different people that I utilize, people that haul stuff off, cabinet builders, and then obviously everybody at To Be Well. So yeah, I've got a whole great team.
And in addition to the startup costs, is there an ongoing royalty or some sort of requirement on your part? You know?
Yes. Okay. There's a $250 a month royalty fee, and then there's a renewal fee. I think it's a 3-year, after 3 years, and it's $7,500. And the great thing is you can own more than one franchise, obviously, and we do have territories. I don't want to be one of those franchises that, you know, inundates a whole neighborhood. I mean, I feel like different towns are going to be able to absorb different numbers. That you could theoretically own one in Kansas City and run it from here. You don't have to be hands-on. You don't have to be Betsy Miller. You can run this from a different town if you wanted to.
I think it's very important that you said about accountability, because you're working with people that is not just that's more of a symptom than it is. It's a mindset, right? So one thing that I would suggest, I was on your website looking for a newsletter. If you have one, I'd like to subscribe. If you don't, that's a great way to connect with everyone here in the room that can use some easy tips just to get your name out, and then we can share that with other people. Say, hey, you know, because it is a personal thing. You're not going to go in there and go, man, you look at all this clutter here. You know, you don't want it. There's a way that you do that. So
I would love for you to share. Actually, I do a lot of that stuff on my Facebook page. So I would love for you to like the Facebook page. I do a lot of tips and share a lot of videos and that kind of stuff, and on Twitter. Twitter's funny though, you know, you can get a little, it's a little different. You can be, I don't want to say naughty, but yeah, a little snarky. Yeah, I'm definitely more of a smart aleck on Twitter than I would be on Facebook. So I would love for you to share the Facebook stuff for sure.
Betsy, I would echo what George said, and I think some authentic content
in a blog form from you, being the organization expert, could actually be a silent moneymaker for you through affiliate marketing, through different organization products, through Amazon, who is feeding you. Have you considered for something like that?
I have considered it, and it's just another thing on my list to do.
Yeah.
But I have considered it. Yes, I'm actually writing a book too, as if I didn't have enough to do. And so I should do it in conjunction with that because I'm writing anyway. But
I got another question.
yes,
The digital organization thing really intrigued me as a millennial, of course.
Yes.
You're right. Today we have files and files and files, and things just get completely misorganized. But is there an opportunity for you to turn that package into something that's just a software suite, or it's just a package of tips and tricks that say this is the best way to organize, and then stay on top of it as it's going to be something that's ongoing, and then it's just purchasable through your website, anything like that?
I would love for you to help me with that.
As far as franchise fees, if you, from the franchisee, you said there's $7,500 a year, and
No ma'am, no ma'am. After 3 years, we renew our contract. So at that time, if I feel like you've done a great job and you are growing and doing the things that are lined out in the FDD under the expectations, I will renew you, and same with you. If you feel like it's been a good fit and you're growing and it's all that you wanted it to be, we decide to renew. And at that time, it's $7,500, not the $35,000 original fee.
you take a percentage of the income for the year?
I do not. I did not want to get involved in that. That's why I just did the monthly fee. So you can make 10 grand a month. I get none of that. I just get a flat rate, $250 a month. That's it.
So what you're saying is for the first 3 years, it's the initial fee and then an annual fee of $750, and that's it?
So if you buy a franchise, it's $35,000. And every month, it's $250. After 3 years, if you want to renew and I want to renew you, it's $7,500.
And that's it?
And that's it.
Thank you.
So as we think about the people that we know who might be interested in to be organized franchise, what does your ideal franchisee look like?
You know, that's so funny. When I first started that, going back to your question, how did you, start this whole process? When I first started this, I thought they looked like me. They were not Fatty McFatterson, don't go there. I thought it was just somebody that was energetic and hands-on and wanting to get in and clean out and walk away and the garage looks fabulous. Now what I think it looks like is it's you that says, I don't want to do it here, but I want to do it in Kansas City and run it from here, and I just kind of want to be the umbrella. So that was kind of eye-opening to me, like, okay, wait, maybe it's not somebody who's necessarily hands-on. Maybe it's two partners. Maybe maybe your sister's out of town and she's going to run it from there and you guys do it together. So really, it's anybody that has that entrepreneurial spirit that kind of wants to chart their own path and loves organizing and loves helping people.
Last week we had a presenter called Smooth Transitions with Mary.
I love her.
Mary Jane Stone.
Yes.
She was a pretty sharp female entrepreneur as well. So that brings me, I'm curious, is there opportunities for cooperation, whether it's a moving company or it's somebody like Smooth Transitions where they identify the need and they say, you're going to need Betsy too?
Yes, we absolutely are friends and collaborate, and yes, absolutely.
So you talk about having to find all of these resources, like the moving trucks or the dumpster people, or you're selling a franchise, nationwide. How are you accessing and finding those reputable people, not locally, with your franchises in other places?
One of the requirements for the franchisees is to join the Chamber of Commerce in their town, and that's who will tap into those resources first and foremost. And then there are some of I'm a member of the National Association of Professional Organizers, and so I have that whole group of people too that I can tap in to different cities.
Have you considered also making going to 1 million cups a requirement?
Sure. Done and done.
Guys, with just our last couple of minutes, we'll take a couple more questions.
I'll comment as well. I met Betsy, and it was the funniest thing. One of her friends was there, and she dumped her purse on the table. Betsy dumped her purse and made her clean it out. I think she had crackers and some cookies and
Half-eaten cookies. First of all, who eats half a cookie?
That's true.
That's
Nobody.
annoying. I'm surprised I'm still friends with her. And she had this creepy little blue man toy, and we left it on a shelf in Deb's restaurant, and
I
waited
know.
for her to find it.
It's true.
It's true story.
Well, Betsy, we'll stay punctual then. As always, we finish with the question, how can we as a community help you?
You can get the word out about the franchise. Absolutely share it via Facebook, Twitter, email, share my website, and the HGTV thing. Do the flash Twitter, people, right there. I really want that to go to the next level too, so that's how you can help me. Thank you.
Everybody tweet for her because it's really awesome. I want to see her have an HGTV show, honestly. She's great. As always, thank you to our presenters, and I want to thank John for bringing music back today. I really appreciate it. He has other things to do as well, but it's always nice when I can hear him play music. Thanks to Brick and Mortar for the coffee. It's awesome, and to the E-Factory. If you know of anyone that you think this program might work for them, we are always interested in talking to new entrepreneurs, new startup businesses. This is a really great forum to do that. So everyone, have a wonderful day, and we'll see you next week.